here at the Diversity and Innovation Leadership Forum, and I am delighted to introduce and interview Rika Nakazawa, our Group Vice President of New Ventures and Innovation. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Megan. Love being here.
So tell us, I know that emerging technology is something that you're very passionate about, and certainly the topic of diversity you're passionate about, and you're very passionate about the topic of sustainability. So we've got them all. So where do you want to start, Rika?
My goodness, that's an excellent question. Well, let me first talk about how I got to the area of ESG and sustainability. So I've been a woman in tech my whole career, and Silicon Valley, I lived here for 17 years. I moved here to work for a company that nobody knew how to even spell at the time, called NVIDIA, or as people called NVIDIA at the time occasionally. And it was really, that was an opportunity for me to dive in deep in compute and next generation technologies. So that was when I first moved to Silicon Valley. And at the time, I was still a tomboy of sorts, and not really noticing that I was often the only woman in the room. And what happened was I went to my alma mater's alumni conference. So Princeton had a women alumni conference. It took them a while to have their first women alumni conference called She Roars, because our mascot are the Tigers. And at the conference, Meg Whitman was one of the speakers, one of the incredible leaders in technology, having led HP, eBay, and others. And so she was part of a panel presenting about women in leadership. And it was the first time that I saw the data about the lack of, or the absence of, women in positions of leadership, particularly in technology. And so I thought, okay, I really need to commit some time to this. And that's when I started focusing in the area and starting from the top at the boardroom level. And as I was doing a lot of research and trying to understand what it was going to take to get more women into the boardroom, we built a platform to help more women get connected, because your network is your net worth, or one of the least spoken about wealth gaps is social capital. In other words, who you know. And so as we started doing that research, and that was part of the work that I was doing for a book that I wrote, I started to see that ESG was a boardroom level agenda, because I was interviewing boardroom leaders about what were the things that were required in the boardroom, and so we could try to impart that into some of the women we're working with. And having been a technologist, as I started to observe how ESG, environmental social governance, which is the parlance used in corporate today of how to talk about where organizations and industries are focusing on sustainability ambitions, I started to think about, okay, so what role does technology play in that? And so that was where I started to really focus in on sustainability, and especially at NTT, given the incredible breadth and depth, and of course the R&D and the investments that we make into R&D on a yearly basis. I thought, wow, this is an incredible opportunity for us to figure out what that paradigm shift is going to look like in terms of how we collectively as a global community are going to be able to reach our goals. But that can't happen until industry and communities and regional groups and ambitions are going to be aligned around those issues.
Tell us a bit about the way that you bring this into your work, because I know that you bring consulting and a process to help organizations embrace sustainability and some of these ideas deep inside of organizations leveraging technology.
This is a really remarkable point in history as it relates to technology, because the silver lining to the pandemic, I know the pandemic has a silver lining, in that the pandemic really forced the digitization of assets and the digitalization of processes and people. And so there was this massive concentration of digital innovation that needed to propagate in a way that was going to enable countries and industries and people to survive and thrive on the other side of the pandemic. And so here we are now, 2023. The pandemic seems like a bad dream. You don't see it, although every once in a while you still see the masks and whatnot when people are traveling. And I think that within NTT, I joined just as we were coming out of the pandemic. That's actually a date that's hard to pinpoint of when were we coming out of the pandemic. But I was joining at a time when organizations and enterprises were trying to figure out how to come out of the crisis of the pandemic. In many ways, businesses were impacted. And because of this digitization and digitalization, you have this convergence of operational technology and information technology, IT and OT massively converging to help us address a lot of fundamental issues that industries were facing, enterprises were facing. So whether that was worker shortage, whether that was about being able to drive greater productivity, efficiency, quality across multiple industries. And of course, sustainability became very pronounced during the pandemic, which is at the topic of the second book that I wrote. The first one was about women on boards because of my focus on diversity in enterprise and technology. And so in my work today, working on the New Ventures Innovation Team, fearlessly led by Shahed Ahmed, we're looking at how some of these emerging technologies are able to successfully provide some of those needs that exist around where IT and OT are converging in a way where the IT group and the technology team have to be integrated with operational advances in the ways that organizations are going to drive initiatives forward, but also around risk and fundamentally about the sustainability piece has become a pronounced part of it simply because with the deployment of more technology, you're going to be having an increase in the energy consumption of things, but also technology remarkably is enabling organizations to better capture data. And a big part of sustainability is around, okay, we need to know what is our measurement. You can't improve something unless you measure it. So whether it's carbon, whether it's energy, whether it's waste, all of these different things that are making up sustainability, that has fundamentally become a materiality issue for organizations of how to drive that forward. So the work that we're doing within New Ventures in Innovation is looking at how does IoT, how does private 5G, how does edge compute, how does a combination thereof enable organizations to better harness the ways that they're going to be able to drive some of those issues forward, even before they figure out what their goals are, to figure out what should their goals be around it. And so that's my main role at NTT. And secondarily, I run sustainability for Americas and increasingly working with our chief sustainability business office, because what's happening now is that there's a huge shift that's happening in terms of investments into climate tech. One of the growing areas here in Silicon Valley is climate tech.
Sure.
And also just overall the investments that are being made, because organizations are seeing now how the IT group is going to be a key fulcrum for how some of these sustainability efforts and
With the
outcomes.
data and IoT that will be critical.
That's right,
Yeah.
100%.
Well, how can we find out more about your practice and get in touch with you, Rika?
Well, you can find me on LinkedIn.
Excellent.
Rika Nakazawa on LinkedIn. There's a few of us, not that many, so just look for the one that's with NTT. Just reach out to me, rika.nakazawa@global.ntt, and would love to talk about digital innovation, sustainability, next generation technologies. I will talk to you about AI until you want to talk about something else all day long.
Awesome.
And I'd be happy to connect you with my colleagues who are incredibly bright, brilliant, and inspirational people in the industry. So
Oh, well, thank you for being on the podcast, Rika.
thank you
Lovely
so
to
much,
have you.
Megan.
Thank
Thank you.